Been wondering, who will Donald Trump choose to be his vice presidential pick to run with him as his running mate? And now, just a little over one day since Joe Biden announced he will not be running for re-election, and he endorsed Vice President Kamala Harris to be the presidential nominee for the Democrats in 2024, now we have to wonder, who will Kamala Harris's vice president be to be her running mate for the 2024 presidential election? So there's an article from The Hill that I thought was really good that I'm going to go over. It goes over a few different candidates and people that I think could realistically be Vice President Harris's vice presidential Harris running mate. That's a lot of words very close together. All right, Andy Beshear, the Democratic governor from Kentucky. He is obviously a Democratic governor of a very red state, and that boosted his profile as the party grapples with future amid growing polarization between urban and rural communities. Beshear flipped his seat blue back in 2019 and bested Trump-backed GOP challenger in a competitive re-election race last year, even after Kentucky overwhelmingly voted for President Trump in 2016 and 2020. We know that is true. The bluegrass state governor said earlier this month that he would support Biden's re-election bid as long as the incumbent remained on the Democratic candidate, sidestepping a question about whether he'd given thought to replacing him. Sunday, Beshear said in a statement that Biden's landmark decision is in the best interest of the country and the party, while lauding the incumbent as a consequential president. While his decision today could not have been easy, it is in the best interest of our country and our party. I want to thank him for his leadership, kindness, and for a successful presidency that got big, important things done, Beshear said. Now it's time for our nation to come together. We need to dial down the anger, rancor, and noise. So, Andy Beshear, looking at the electoral map, what would Andy Beshear add? I'm not sure he adds all that much, to be honest. I know he's the Democratic governor of a red state, of the state of Kentucky, but he's not going to be able to win Kentucky, not against Donald Trump, not at the presidential level. That won't happen. I don't think he may be able to help a little bit in a state like Virginia, but I don't think he would have a massive amount of help in a state like Pennsylvania or Michigan or Wisconsin. Andy Beshear, I think, would be a very safe pick and more of like a symbolic pick of, look, we're trying to listen to the voters that are like in the middle, that are like the more moderate voters. There's not really a strategic reason to pick Beshear if I'm Kamala Harris, to be honest, other than, see, I'm picking him, we're not too radical. That would be the only reason to pick him. I mean, I think he would be a fine vice president for Harris, but I'm not really too optimistic about it being Andy Beshear. One of these people coming up, I do think, is my preferred VP for Harris, but I'll be getting to that in a few minutes. Next up is Pete Buttigieg. He was the mayor of South Bend, Indiana, and he ran for the 2020 presidential race in the Democratic primary against Biden and several other candidates. He got the following nickname, Mayor Pete. Biden brought him into his administration as the transportation secretary, and Buttigieg also made history as the first openly gay cabinet member, and his success has stoked questions about a future presidential run, as well as about whether he could join Harris on the 2024 ticket. His statement today about Biden dropping out is, Joe Biden has earned his place among the best and most consequential presidents in American history. I am so proud to serve under his leadership and thankful for his unwavering focus on what is best for our country, Buttigieg said in a statement on his social media platform X after Biden's announcement. Buttigieg, at 42, his youth would stand out on a Harris ticket after age-based criticisms contributed to Biden's historic exit, including with Trump's ticket where he appointed 39-year-old J.D. Vance to be his running mate. That'd be a good contrast of like the experienced older candidate, even though Kamala Harris isn't that old, but she's still like older than Buttigieg and Vance would be. Buttigieg is an interesting choice for the Democrats. Again, I don't think he would do too much. I know he's from Indiana, but obviously he's not going to win Indiana. I'm not sure he'll be able to deliver the Rust Belt for Kamala Harris, but maybe able to help a little bit. Buttigieg is someone I think would do well in the traditional Democratic states, swing states like New Hampshire, for instance, and Virginia. Maybe he may have an effect there. There's not really a ton of candidates that I think will have a massive electoral impact on Harris choosing them. Buttigieg, I still think Buttigieg is someone that's more likely to run for president in 2028 versus run for vice president now. I could see why Harris would be considering Buttigieg to be vice president, but I feel like he's more likely to run for president in 2028 than to be her vice president. Roy Cooper of North Carolina, he is the first one, I think, in my view, I would actively consider for Harris to pick. No, not that Andy Beshear wouldn't, but I don't know how a conservative Democrat would necessarily play within the overall Democratic Party. Roy Cooper, I think, would be someone that's very good. For one thing, is he's on his term is currently term limited, so he can't run for re-election, so he doesn't have to worry about giving up an open seat. It's going to be open in a few months anyway. He won in 2016 and 2020 when Trump won North Carolina in both of those elections. Cooper was able to get elected on the same ballot, so he has shown he has at least some cross-party support. Under Cooper's leadership, North Carolina has emerged as a battleground for the Democrats, eyeing as a potential flip. For this reason, some suggest that putting Cooper on a 2024 ticket could bring the state more into play. I don't entirely disagree, but I don't entirely agree with this either, but we'll get into that in a minute. Earlier this month, Cooper reportedly brushed off talk of ticket changes as the kind of speculation we do not need right now. On Thursday, he joined Harris at a rally in Fayetteville, and though neither talked directly about the party drama, the North Carolina governor praised the vice president as someone who gets the job done, as reported by a local news outlet. Cooper shared a statement of gratitude to Biden after the Sunday announcement, lauding him as one among our nation's finest presidents. So Roy Cooper is someone that, look, I doubt it. I think Trump is going to win North Carolina. But if Roy Cooper could find a way to win North Carolina, that would definitely be a big blow to Trump's pathway to victory. North Carolina is a state that's been close for the last, 3 or 4 presidential elections now. But the Republicans always seem to win by at least 2 or 3 percentage points. If Roy Cooper being on the ticket flips North Carolina, well, that'd be one of the most influential VP choices that Harris could make. It's interesting to see because at the governor's level, it narrowly voted for Cooper twice. But at the presidential level, it's voted for Trump, the Republican, narrowly twice. So it's kind of like an unstoppable force meets an immovable object in that case. If him and Trump are both on the same ticket for the same race, I'm not sure how it'll go. I would still personally err on the side of Trump winning it by maybe 1 or 2 percentage points. But I will say Roy Cooper, in my view, is one of the better Democratic options because it gives a more strategic reason to choosing him as VP in terms of trying to win the election. Another problem with trying to choose the VP is we really don't know what Kamala Harris's strengths and weaknesses are at the electoral map strategy level. She's been vice president, but there hasn't been too much media attention about her, so we really don't know how well she'll play in a bunch of these swing states. There haven't been much polls about her yet because obviously she was the vice president, not the president. So we really don't know how she's going to fare in some of these swing states. We need to kind of wait and see how she does, and that may influence who the VP is chosen as. But Roy Cooper is someone I definitely think, at very least, should be considered. Mark Kelly, the Arizona senator, he is someone that when I heard is being talked about as a potential VP for Kamala Harris, my first instinct was, I wasn't thinking that at all. And then as I kind of thought about it more and more over time, I'm like, that actually could be a very smart pick. And he's become an influential voice for national Democrats, serving in the Senate since 2020. Democratic strategists and donors have named Kelly among the top contenders, being best positioned to serve as Harris's running mate. According to a memo from Democratic-funded polling group Blue Labs, Kelly is among several battleground Democrats that perform better than Biden in their respective states. That is absolutely true. However, choosing Kelly could come back with some risk for Senate Democrats. Arizona Democrats Governor Katie Hobbs will almost certainly appoint a Democrat to fill Kelly's seat, but then that Democrat would have to run in 2026 and then again for a full term in 2028. That scenario mirrors the one Kelly went through when he ran for a special election against former Senator Martha McSally, who was appointed in 2018. Kelly defeated McSally in 2020 and then won re-election for a full term in 2022. I was going to bring that up, but the article took it right out of my mouth. So, yeah, it's true. It's Kelly. If Kelly were to be the vice president, that would absolutely be the exact same scenario his opponent, Martha McSally, had in 2018 and in 2020. But what does Mark Kelly being the vice president do? Well, for one thing, I think this is one of the cases he'd be one of the more effective candidates. I think he would be able to flip Arizona for Kamala Harris. I mean, Donald Trump, I think right now would probably win Arizona by under 1%, but I think Mark Kelly being on the ticket probably would deliver Arizona for Harris. Trump has a tough time in Arizona. He's had for 2 elections now. and I think Kelly would be very good for that. Kelly may also have an effect in Nevada, seeing as it's right nearby. I'm not sure if he will, but he may be able to have an effect. His personal story with his wife and being an astronaut definitely, I think, would resonate with a lot of voters. So Kelly, I think, was also being like my top 3 for people to be potentially chosen as vice president. It's a pick that I wasn't thinking about too much, but in retrospect, Mark Kelly as the VP makes a ton of sense. And it's someone I think definitely is very important to Harris's potential pathway to victory, if that's what she's thinking about. Wes Moore, the governor from Maryland, is considered a rising star in the Democratic Party. He's made campaign stops for Biden in battleground states of North Carolina and Wisconsin. The governor was also front and center outside of the White House earlier this month following a meeting between Democratic governors and Biden about his debate performance. The first-term governor has also made the news for his handling the Baltimore bridge collapse, which put him squarely on the national scene. However, like many other rising star Democratic governors, Moore would still need to grow his national name ID. Additionally, Moore does not have a lot of experience in federal campaigns. Yeah, I think the article kind of summed it up well at the end of it. I think Wes Moore is someone better to run for president in 2028 or vice president in 2028. I think now might be a little bit too soon, as was one of my criticisms for J.D. Vance, so I've been wrong once about that. But I don't think getting elected in 2022 is necessarily the best for serving as vice president. You don't have much experience. That being said, at very least he has experience as a governor, so I guess that would equate more similar to being vice president than a senator or representative would. But I think Wes Moore, it doesn't really add any voters to Harris's side that she wouldn't already win. So I personally don't think Moore is much in consideration for this, but it's a very interesting thought, but I think 2028 is more to watch for him if he were to run. Gavin Newsom of California. Gavin Newsom is one of the most popular names in the Democratic Party. His name always comes up when it comes to running for president. He emerged this cycle as a prominent surrogate for Biden, and among the names floated alongside Harris as a possible replacement for the incumbent at the top of the ticket. His defense of Biden and his public sparring with Republicans like Governor Ron DeSantis of Florida last year, who he debated on Fox News, has helped rocket him to the party's stardom and stoked rumors about his 2028 ambitions. And that, I think, is 100% right. I have no doubt Gavin Newsom is running for president in 2028. I don't think he's running in 2024. But Newsom called talk of replacing Biden this cycle unhelpful and unnecessary. And both he and Governor of Michigan Gretchen Whitmer have reportedly communicated they're not interested in serving as Harris's second in command. And again, I think they're both doing this because they both have interest in running for president in 2028. I don't think they want to be vice president in 2024. Newsom and Harris also both hail from the liberal state of California, and such a ticket could come under fire from Republicans critical of the Golden State. They'd also face constitutional restrictions on presidential and vice presidential candidates from the same state, similar to what Trump and Rubio would have faced if Trump selected Rubio to be his vice president. It's very murky area when it comes to legal precedent. In his statement after Biden's exit from the race, Newsom said he'll go down in history as one of the most impactful and selfless presidents. Yeah, Newsom, I think, is pretty clear-cut. He wants to be president of the United States. I don't think he wants to be vice president of the United States. I think the only time he would leave governor of California is to run for president. I don't think he's going to run for vice president. If so, I actually think he could be a very formidable Democratic candidate. I think he's someone that a lot of Republicans would kind of scoff at and be like, "Oh, he's ruined California. This should be an easy election." I wouldn't think that way. I would definitely take Newsom very serious as a serious contender, because the stakes of him winning, if he were to win, would be very detrimental to the Republican Party. So I think Newsom is someone Republicans have to take seriously, but I think that's still 2028. I don't think 2024. We're going to see Newsom on the Democratic ticket. And now we have Governor J.B. Pritzker of Illinois. On Sunday, Pritzker praised Biden and pledged to work every day to ensure Trump does not win in November. Trump and Pritzker have become very quick enemies and such on social media and get a lot of each other's attention, I'll say that. As we extend our gratitude to President Biden and reflect on his many accomplishments, we must not ignore the threat posed by Donald Trump's potential return to the White House. A top Biden surrogate and second-term governor of his blue state, Pritzker was among those talked about as a potential Biden replacement. He boasts an estimated $3.5 billion net worth and could easily self-fund a campaign. His abortion rights-focused policy advocacy group has notably invested hundreds of thousands in efforts to enshrine abortion rights in a handful of states this fall, right in line with the mainstream Democratic Party and with a lot of Democratic voter support. That would make a ton of sense policy-wise. Pritzker will also be the host governor when the Democrats' National Convention takes place in Chicago next month. The Democrat National Committee chair on Sunday promised a transparent and orderly process to select a new nominee. So, Pritzker being the nominee, again, I think Pritzker, similar to some other candidates, I don't think he adds much electorally, but he adds something in terms of, like the article said, fundraising and potential being able to keep the momentum of a race with Kamala Harris. I think that would be his best asset to add to the campaign. He's a very Democratic governor from Illinois. I don't think that's going to play too well in Wisconsin, Michigan, or Pennsylvania. But I think at very least it would add a, he's not really as well known as Harris, I would say, either. But he just adds a lot of money, so that could be a potential interest. Again, though, he's someone I think would be a better presidential candidate in 2028 than vice presidential candidate now. Josh Shapiro of Pennsylvania, governor of Pennsylvania, he is the person I have as my top choice for Harris's VP. And I'll read this article and I'll tell you why. He's been floated as Harris's VP pick in speculation for a while now after Biden dropped out of the race. Like Harris, Shapiro previously served as the Attorney General of Pennsylvania. He established himself as a popular governor of a swing state when he defeated Republican Doug Mastriano in 2022. Shapiro received praise last week for his unifying tone in the wake of the assassination attempt against Donald Trump in Butler, Pennsylvania. The governor has also made headlines for his response to East Palestine, Ohio, train derailment, which impacted Pennsylvania last year. While Shapiro is well known in the Keystone State, he would have a lot of work to do to grow his national name ID before November. Unlike Whitmer and Newsom, he does not have a national super PAC and does not have the same experience campaigning at the federal level. And where I disagree with the article on this is they say that like it's a bad thing. I think it's the exact opposite. Kamala Harris is the big national name I think the Democrats have for the ticket. I think Josh Shapiro is someone that could add a more state-by-state focused, where if Shapiro's on the ticket, the chance of winning Pennsylvania, I think, definitely goes up. And if he's able to win Pennsylvania, at very least, that cuts off one of Trump's biggest states to win the presidential election. That cuts them off. And then it's possible maybe has a carryover effect in Michigan or Wisconsin. And then that really only leaves Trump with one swing state left in the Rust Belt to try and win the election. If Shapiro being on the ticket is able to add Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania to Harris's column, if Shapiro can help do this, then Trump essentially can't be president again because Harris would reach 270. And for Trump to win, he would have to find another state somewhere else, like maybe New Hampshire or Virginia or Minnesota, and try to flip one of those states. I think Josh Shapiro being on the ticket is one of the most strategic moves Harris and the Democrats can make, because it's going after the three most important swing states that the Democrats have to win. Either, I would say they have to win all of them, to be honest, because it's possible they could win Michigan and Pennsylvania. Trump could still win Wisconsin and win the presidential election. The Democrats have to win all three of these swing states. And if they win all three, I think it's a very, very good chance that the Democratic candidate, Kamala Harris, will win the presidential election. So from a pure strategic reason, I think the idea of Shapiro being Harris's VP is a very good idea. And it would be a very smart move strategically and electorally. Gretchen Whitmer, governor of Michigan, she is someone that I think has said she does not want to be vice president, but she was first elected in 2018 in Michigan, 2 years after Trump flipped the state in 2016. She's proven herself to be a force for Democrats in Michigan and across the country. Whitmer won re-election at the top of the ticket in 2022, along with several other Democratic candidates down ballot in the state. Whitmer has established her Fight Like Hell PAC, which is dedicated to electing Democrats in federal races. But like Newsom, she's been one of the top Democrats considered as a possible replacement in Biden's place. But in a statement after the incumbent dropped out on Sunday, Whitmer suggested her role will remain the same. My job in this election will remain the same, doing everything I can to elect Democrats and stop Donald Trump. Blah, 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 blah. Not really too much to add after that. But her chief job is going to be trying to deliver Michigan for Kamala Harris, or whoever the Democratic nominee is. So she is someone... There are a lot of Democratic governors that I think are going to be candidates for president in 2028. But I don't think she's going to be a candidate in 2024 for vice president, but she kind of tries to do the same thing Josh Shapiro would do, which is deliver Michigan for Kamala Harris and hopefully have an effect on winning Wisconsin and Pennsylvania. Again, I think if the Democrats are going to win this election, it all goes through these 3 states. Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. It's possible Democrats could win the election, but without winning these 3 states, I don't really see a realistic, plausible path. Because if Trump is winning all of Wisconsin, Michigan, or Pennsylvania, or even one of them, at very least, Trump has a path to win. If the Democrats win all of these states, Trump really can't win unless he's able to pick off New Hampshire or Virginia or Minnesota. And just based on historical precedent, it's kind of hard to imagine Trump losing all 3 of these states and winning Minnesota or Virginia, which are typically farther to the Democratic side than these 3 states. But maybe this election is something different, but Whitmer, I think, would be a pretty strong VP candidate, especially to help with the Rust Belt. But again, I think she's eyeing 2028. I think it's a big strategic move by a lot of Democratic governors that they don't want to attach themselves to Harris just in case Harris loses. They don't want to ruin their own 2028 presidential ambitions. So I believe that's the end of the article. Yes, it is. That's going to do it all for today's video. Let me know what you think about who you think Harris's vice president will be. Thank you so much for watching. Please remember to like this video and subscribe, and I hope to see you in a future video.